Cheese can be a plastic-wrapped slice that costs pennies, or a tiny handmade wedge guarded like treasure. Same basic idea, milk transformed. But the world inside cheese is huge. The most familiar one is American cheese, the orange square built for one job, melting perfectly. It is not sliced from a giant natural block. It is usually made by blending cheese with milk ingredients and emulsifying salts, so it turns smooth instead of greasy. That is why burgers love it. It's soft, salty, creamy, and engineered to behave. But real cheese gets much less predictable from here. Step away from the burger wrapper and you meet cheddar, the cheese that became so common people forget it came from a real place. Cheddar began around the village of Cheddar in Somerset, England, where cool caves helped age the wheels. The key step is called cheddaring. Curds are stacked, pressed, turned and drained until they become dense and firm. Young cheddar tastes milky and mild. Aged cheddar turns sharp, crumbly and nutty with tiny crunchy crystals. Here's the twist. Most cheddar today is made nowhere near cheddar. But the next cheese changes not by aging longer, it changes by stretching. Mozzarella looks simple, but it is basically milk turned elastic. The classic version comes from southern Italy, and the protected mozzarella di bufala campana is made with water buffalo milk. The magic is pasta filata, or stretched curd. Cheesemakers heat the curd in hot water, pull it, fold it, and shape it until it becomes glossy and springy. Fresh mozzarella is soft, wet and milky, with a gentle salty edge from the brine. Low moisture mozzarella is drier, which is why pizza shops love it. It melts, stretches and browns. But the next cheese goes the opposite direction, crumbly, briny and ancient feeling. Feta is not just white cheese in salty water. Real feta is tied to grease, sheep's milk, and sometimes a smaller amount of goat's milk. Its flavor comes from the animals, the landscape, and the brine that keeps it sharp and fresh. The texture is crumbly, creamy, and slightly grainy, with a bright, tangy bite. Here's what most people miss. In the European Union, feta is legally protected, so the name is not supposed to belong to just any salty white block. It belongs to a tradition. But if feta is all brightness and brine, the next cheese is soft, pale, and almost alive. Brie looks innocent, a soft, round cheese with a white, velvety rind. But that rind is doing real work. Brie is a bloomy rind cheese, meaning surface molds grow on the outside and slowly ripen the cheese inward. When young, it is firm and mild. As it matures, the inside turns silky, buttery, and sometimes mushroomy, almost like the rind is quietly transforming the center. People often cut the rind off, but that is where much of the flavor lives. Brie made outside France can be very different from traditional versions. And once cheese starts aging longer, sweetness can appear in a surprising place. Gouda is the Dutch cheese most people think they know, but aged Gouda can feel like a completely different food. Young Gouda is smooth, mild, and creamy, the kind of cheese that disappears easily on bread. But when it ages, moisture leaves, proteins break down, and the flavor turns deep, nutty, and caramel-like. Those little crunchy bits are not salt, they are protein crystals, a sign of long aging. In the Netherlands, Gouda was traded in town cheese markets for centuries, turning wheels into money. But the next cheese becomes famous for something most foods try to avoid: blue mold. Blue cheese can look like something went wrong. The veins are blue, green, or grey, and the smell can be sharp enough to fill a room. But that mold is the point. In cheeses like Roquefort, Penicillium roqueforti helps create the powerful flavour: salty, creamy, spicy, and a little metallic. Traditional Roquefort is made from sheep milk and aged in natural caves around Roquefort-sur-Soulzon in France. Tiny openings allow air inside, helping the blue veins grow. It is funky on purpose. But if blue cheese is controlled chaos, The next one is controlled patience. Parmigiano Reggiano is the cheese people grate over pasta, but the real thing is much more serious than a green can. Made in a specific part of northern Italy, it uses only milk, salt and rennet, then ages for at least 12 months. Many wheels go far longer. During that time, the cheese becomes dry, granular and intensely savoury, with nutty, brothy, almost pineapple-like notes. Those crunchy crystals are part of the reward. Here's the strange part. Whole wheels can be valuable enough to use as collateral in cheese-backed loans. But another mountain cheese was built for melting, not grating.
Gruyère comes from Switzerland, and it may be one of the greatest melting cheeses on earth. It is firm, pale and smooth, with a flavour that shifts from creamy and slightly sweet to nutty, earthy and complex as it ages. Unlike many cheeses people call Swiss, Gruyère usually has few or no big holes. Its power is texture. It melts into a silky layer without turning oily, which is why it rules fondue, French onion soup and croque monsieur. It tastes refined, but it began as practical mountain food. The next cheese flips the melting rule completely.
Halloumi is the cheese that refuses to melt. Originally associated with Cyprus, it is traditionally made from sheep's and goat's milk, though cow's milk versions are common now. The curd is heated, folded, and often stored in brine, giving it a salty, firm, layered texture. Put it in a hot pan, and instead of collapsing, it browns. The outside turns golden and crisp, while the inside stays chewy and squeaky. That makes halloumi perfect for grilling. The science is simple. Its protein structure holds together under heat. But the next cheese is protected by law in a way that sounds almost impossible.
Stilton is one of Britain's most famous blue cheeses, rich, crumbly, creamy and pierced with blue veins. But here's the odd part. True Stilton cannot be made in the village of Stilton. The protected rules limit production to specific counties, including Derbyshire, Leicestershire and Nottinghamshire. The village that gave the cheese its name is outside the allowed zone. Blue Stilton has a bold, spicy flavour that pairs with port, pears and dark bread. Its rind, veins and crumbly body make it instantly recognisable. But some cheeses are strange not because of laws, they are strange because of bubbles.
Swiss cheese holes are not just empty space. In cheeses like Emmental, those holes, or eyes, come from gas produced by bacteria during ripening. The microbes feed, release carbon dioxide, and the gas gathers into round pockets inside the cheese. That is why the holes are smooth, not torn. Emmental is mild, nutty, slightly sweet, and built for slicing. It became the cartoon idea of cheese because the holes are so visual. But the funny part is that fewer holes can sometimes mean a cleaner modern process. The next cheese is not defined by holes, it's defined by what spills out. Burrata looks like mozzarella until you cut it open. Then the secret runs out. This southern Italian cheese is a pouch of stretched curd filled with stracciatella and cream. The outside is smooth and springy, the inside is rich, loose and silky. It was once a clever way to use leftover mozzarella pieces, but today it can feel like luxury. Burrata does not need much. Tomatoes, olive oil, bread, maybe a little salt. Its weakness is also its charm. It is fragile, fresh, and best eaten quickly. But the next cheese becomes expensive for a much harder reason: milk. Pule is often described as one of the most expensive cheeses in the world. And the reason is not gold leaf or fancy packaging, it is milk. Pule is made in Serbia from Balkan donkey milk, sometimes blended with goat milk depending on the producer. Donkeys produce far less milk than cows, and milking them takes patience, labour, and many animals for a tiny amount of cheese. The result is pale, crumbly, and delicate, often described as clean and slightly sweet. Its rarity creates the price. But the final cheese is not famous because it is expensive, It is famous because selling it is forbidden. Casu Martzu is the cheese that turns the whole list upside down. From Sardinia, it begins as sheep milk cheese, but cheese fly larvae are allowed to break it down beyond normal fermentation. The texture becomes soft, almost collapsing, and liquid sometimes seeps from the inside. Traditionally, some people prize it for its intense, spicy, burning flavor. But because of food safety concerns, its sale is illegal in Italy and across the European Union. So, the next time you see cheese, remember, it is not just milk. It is science, law, history, danger, and taste all in one bite. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, watch Every Bread Explained next.